What's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of your rundown. Join in with me as always, my brother from another, my co-host all the way from the Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing good, bro. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. You know, this is like our favorite part of the year, right? A lot of crazy things going on. NFL free agency, the draft is coming up. But of course, the biggest one of all has to be the NBA postseason. Back in full effect. Yesterday was day one of the NBA playing. Today is day two. And we will certainly get into all of those things, but there is some NFL news that we got to discuss before we start to dive into the excitement of the NBA postseason, and that is that Odell Beckham Jr. has finally signed with another team. This is something that we've been covering since before the season even ended, about where he was going to end up and things like that. He was at the owners' meetings in Arizona. He lives in Arizona. And kind of just shot his shot with a couple owners, met up with the brass of the Jets. I believe Arizona Cardinals were in there, the Patriots, and the Baltimore Ravens. And then a couple of days ago, the Baltimore Ravens had been said to have given him an offer. A couple of days pass, comes out that he's going to go on a visit with the Jets. He's heading to New Jersey. And he'll take a physical and possibly sign a deal after their meeting. Well, before the clock could strike 12, the Ravens went and upped their offer. $15 million guaranteed. Contract in total could be worth $18 million for the 1 year. And you look at this, and the first thing that you say is, number one, glad to have Odell back. Love to see him when he's back. I still think he's a number one wide receiver when healthy. What does this mean for Lamar Jackson? I think it clearly means Lamar Jackson is going to be playing in a Baltimore Ravens uniform this year. I don't think Odell makes this splash, does this signing without any reassurance that Lamar is going to be there, number one. And not only that, we got the screenshot, the FaceTime call between the two. I don't know if you saw that. And, I mean, you got to kind of take it on his word. Now, how he will stay with the Ravens, that's a whole nother thing. Does he finally get a deal done with them? Does he decide to play on the tag? We don't know. But I think that this signing ultimately tells us that Lamar Jackson is going to be throwing passes to Odell Beckham Jr. this upcoming season.
Yeah, definitely. I think more so, like you said, the FaceTime call. I think I seen a video of them like partying.
Yeah, they were at the club
together in Miami. So it seems that's probably gonna be the case. We'll see how it goes moving forward. But I think that it's interesting now because it's gonna be interesting to see what the deal is that they do work out and how that all works out, and if what that was discussed before the Odell thing, or Odell kind of enhanced it or whatever, or maybe there's a chance where they shock us and he kind of doesn't maybe still come back. But like you said, everything seems like it's pointing in the right direction for him to come back. I just think the interesting part now is, like you said, is it on the tag? What does the deal look like? Different things like that. So I think there's still a lot to be discovered here, but I think this just shows that maybe it's going in the right direction, which is good.
Yeah, 100%. Now we get to talk about the fun part, the football part. Now, Kay, I think we are on the same page with this when it comes to Lamar, the player. Lamar is phenomenal. I think all these teams that haven't even taken a crack at him are morons. Yes, that's how I feel. Y'all are morons. This man is electric. He is Mike Vick 2.0. I think he's better than Mike Vick. He's a better passer. For all this flack he gets about him not being a thrower of the football and anything like that, it's bull. Who was he really throwing to? You didn't give him many options. His number one option at one point was Hollywood Brown, and I liked Hollywood Brown, but number one wide receiver he was not and is not. Now, I like Rashad Bateman a ton. Rashad Bateman was his number one wide receiver last year. The injury bug kept hurting him, so he really didn't have much to throw to outside of Mark Andrews. Now you bring in Odell Beckham Jr., who, had he not tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, would have won Super Bowl MVP. It wouldn't even been a close game. The Bengals didn't even know what to do with him. He was running circles around them, did whatever he wanted up until that ACL tear. You're pairing him up with Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews. And by the way, Greg Roman is not calling this offense anymore. It's not going to be a run-heavy offense. It's going to look a bit different with the new offensive coordinator in place. It's a tough division. You've got a Steelers team that's up and coming now, the second-year quarterback. You've got the Bengals, obviously, who were just in another AFC championship game, almost went back to the Super Bowl. And you've got the Cleveland Browns, who I expect to see a little bit more from, with Deshaun Watson kind of getting back into a groove and things after about a two-year layoff. Man, if everything is right, I think this is the year Big Truss and Lamar Jackson make a run. You know, he's already won a playoff game. He's done all this in spite of not having all the weapons. He's got his safety blanket and Andrews still there. I expect to see more from Rashad Bateman, in part because Rashad Bateman's not the number one wide receiver on his team. And that is a great thing, because Rashad Bateman is a hell of a talent, but you're adding Odell Beckham Jr. into the fold. I think that this has the chance to be one of the most exciting offenses in the league this year. And yeah, I do feel like they can make a run at the Super Bowl. They have a head coach who's a Super Bowl champion and has seen nothing but success since he's been a head coach for the Ravens in this league. And then, you know, I can't say any more about the talent that's over there. You still got an amazing defense. And yeah, it's time. It is time.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things that you said. Obviously, it's going to come down to health, like it does with a lot of teams. Obviously, Lamar getting hurt at the end of last season. You expect him to be fully back, Odell, things like that. So I think it's going to take Odell a couple games to get back in the rhythm after taking a year off. But I think it comes down to health for them. And like you said, they're in a tough conference. So that conference with the Bills and those guys, Bengals, it's always going to be a tough conference. So anything can happen. But I think, like you said, to go get Odell, if he's the Odell that we think that if he's going to be that same Odell he was before the injury, then that's great for them. They maybe have like a number one option, like you were saying. So I think it's great. It's going to come down to health for me, and then just the division, anything can happen. So I think they can have a great season, and then the NFL playoffs too, one game elimination. They could still maybe go out in a game against the Bengals, who were just playing well at the time. But I think I agree with you that I think they can make a run, and I see that, and I think they see the conference and see how tough the conference is and knew they had to make some type of move, and I think that's probably where that Odell thing happened. So it's kind of like, give them more money, let's keep Lamar, let's make a move. This conference is tough, so yeah, just health. If those the guys can stay healthy, I can see it.
Yeah, and I mean it's a power play on the hands of the Ravens too. Let's not forget that. Because we know Lamar's disgruntled. He's come out and he's asked for a trade. And one of the reasons, obviously money's a big factor here on why he's not happy. But I mean, if you look at what have the Ravens realistically done for him, he's done a lot for them. But have they really put him in the best position to succeed? Not really. They never went out and tried to get him a true wide receiver. When Hollywood Brown asked out, they didn't have to do that. That hurt Lamar's stock when you got rid of his number one target. So obviously they're trying to get a deal done, but I think it says a lot that they said, hey, look, we got you the best wide receiver that we could possibly get on the market this year. This guy is an all-pro player when healthy. We've seen it. And yeah, it's go time. It's go time.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see if they try to use that as like leverage, or if he uses that as leverage. So, see, like I said, that's gonna be interesting to see how those contract negotiations work out. And then now that they both seem like they're on a path of like, okay, we both want this to happen. Like, who's gonna play hardball? So, let's see how it goes.
100%. Saquon Barkley, speaking of the tag, will not be reporting to the Giants' voluntary offseason workouts. He is not allowed to because he has not signed the tag at the deadline, does not plan to. And I mean, what do we think of it? I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a Giant this year. Saquon Barkley probably thought he could get more money in this running back market, and the running back market this offseason really plummeted. Unfortunately, I don't agree with it, but the league looks at it as running backs they're expendable. We can use you how we need to use you, and then move on to the next guy because your position is the toughest position to play because you take the most damage, right? We're had this debates nonstop about Bijan Robinson from the University of Texas. Where will he go? Because he is the best skill player in this draft, but he's a running back. So you want to take somebody else over him because of that. That's kind of where Saquon Barkley is in this grand scheme of things. Joe Shane came out after they put the tag on him and said that offer of 12 and what was it, 12.1, 12.5 million dollars a year was off the table now. And he I kind of understand where he's at with this because he's in a situation where he has no leverage anymore. The market, there was no leverage to gain because the running back market wasn't a strong market. Um, the Giants can put him on the tag because there's no takers on him or anything like that. So he's shown he's committed. He was just out in Arizona working out with Daniel Jones and that new offense. I think every skill player was out there with Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor over the weekend. And now it's just about getting a deal done. I, as a Giants fan, cannot fault him for that. Like I said, him being out at those workouts over this past week lets me know that he's still committed and wants to do what he's got to do. But it's a business side to it at the end of the day. I expect him to play, and to be honest, I'm kind of cool with him not having to go to these workouts and do anything that could be damaging to him.
Right, like you said, trying to gain leverage and yeah, it doesn't really maybe make sense for him to go out there and play and maybe get hurt or something like that. So I think just being on the tag and stuff like you said, trying to get leverage, and he probably just feels like it's probably not worth it. Obviously he wants to get his money locked up and have money, a multi-year contract and different things like that, and obviously that didn't happen for him. But I don't think he's probably thinking like, like you don't really like need to be there and risk the chance of getting hurt, and you don't have nothing long term. So I think like you said, I expect him to play this year. I just think like he's holding out as players do in the situation to try to gain some leverage, get his money, and then also less risk of injuries they do in coming to these volunteer workouts and things like that. So I think it's the business. He's playing playing hardball, trying to do what he got to do and stuff. But I think it's part of it. I don't think he's probably missing out on these workouts anyway. He's probably like just get my rest, train on my own, and kind of do my thing. So I think that's kind of where he's at with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, I expect him to be in a Giants uniform for the first game of the season. Don't expect nothing like that. I tell you, I don't know about you, K. I'm gonna be watching that game at a bar. YouTube TV is bugging. I am not paying that much money for a Sunday ticket. That is nuts.
Uh, Say that one more time. Sorry.
It's all good.
You
I
said
don't know
something.
about you. I am not, but YouTube TV has Sunday ticket now. I'm not paying that much money for Sunday ticket.
I feel you. It comes in the YouTube package.
No, it's an add-on.
I'm saying okay, yeah,
Yeah, they have it now. It used to only, what was it, DirecTV or Dish?
yeah. It was
One of
it was
the
like
um they exclusively had it, and now it's branched out to YouTube TV. If you get it, they'll give you $100 off if you get it before June 6th, which would be like $260 something just for Sunday ticket. It'll be 289, I think, with Red Zone, and then if you get it afterwards, it would be in the 300s. No, I'm not. Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, shout out to YouTube TV. I feel you on that one.
I can't get behind that. I really can't do that.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Um,
Truck guaranteed.
no, that's not what I wanted to play. Whatever. Um, Yeah, so moving on. We got the NBA play-in. Day one started yesterday. The Miami Heat took on the Atlanta Hawks in Miami. Not a very nice day in Miami. Looked not so great outside. And then the Los Angeles Lakers took on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, as a Heat fan, I was distraught, disappointed over that game, what I saw yesterday. I'm going to take one out of Stephen A's book because this was a team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. They were the number one seed in the East. They took the Boston Celtics to 7 games, a very tough 7 games. And this season has just been everything but what Heat fans and probably a lot of NBA people expected from them this year. They finished 7th in the East, are fighting to get into the playoffs. They will not be the 7th seed because they lost to the Atlanta Hawks last night, 116-105. Jimmy Butler, 21, 4 and 9. Max Strus, 3, 5 and 1. Bam Adebayo, 12, 9 and 4. Hero with a very quiet 26 and 6. And Kyle Lowry, who I have been saying get this guy out of here since they signed him, carried this Heat team with 33 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. So they end up losing to the Atlanta Hawks when we expected them to be a contender this season. We were bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived on this Miami Heat team. That was pitiful last night. I mean, me and Mike, whenever Mike comes on here, just whenever we're talking basketball, are the first ones talking about how DeMarcus Cousins should still be playing in the NBA. You don't think DeMarcus Cousins could have helped this Heat team last night? Because Atlanta destroyed them on the boards. It's a huge reason why they won this game. And every time that the Heat kept climbing their way back in the game, Atlanta had an answer and just would run it back up to a 9-10 point game.
Yeah, I think that was interesting to me. I think everyone kind of picked the Heat, and I thought the Heat would win that game. But I think Atlanta kind of came out and punched them in the mouth early because Atlanta still has talent. Obviously, they've seen their ups and downs, had to fire their coach or whatever the case may be. So Atlanta still has some talent, but I'm still shocked that they were able to beat the Heat the way they did. Like you said, the Heat was a team that was in championship contention, maybe one jump shot away from making it push to the finals or, whatever the case may be. So I think even still with the way it is, I think people still have some confidence in this Heat team. I think that they if they win, they end up playing the Bucks, and obviously the Bucks have had their number the last couple of times. But there was a point where they had the Bucks number, and they're obviously going to build that wall again on Giannis. So I think if the Celtics ended up playing against them, they knew they wouldn't be no cakewalk, and if it ends up being the Bucks, they knew they won't be no cakewalk. But I think they do need to get their stuff together, and maybe that playing loss was kind of like the little punch in the mouth that they needed to kind of get it together. It's been an up and down season for them this whole season, so maybe that is. I think they kind of felt like they can maybe just turn it on when needed, and that's kind of how they were going through the season. And then I think maybe what happened last night will maybe help them wake up a little bit because they still got talent. It's really like the same roster that made it to the conference finals last year. So I think there's still not gonna be no cakewalk for anybody that they end up playing.
Yeah, I mean, I felt better about the Heat against the Celtics. I felt like the Heat could actually, not saying they would, but I would have gave them a chance against the Celtics if they played them in the first round to pull off an upset. I'm not giving them a chance against the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not even convinced. I'm not even convinced that they'll beat whoever wins between Chicago and Toronto tonight. I'm not convinced at all that's a gimme game. I don't think that they can win, that they're guaranteed to win that at all. But I mean, if you look at this Heat roster, I said it last night, and I'll elaborate on it here on the show. you should go through every single option possible to get a legitimate star next to Jimmy Butler. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Nothing should be left off the table. Personally, you ready for this? The Heat should trade Tyler Hero this summer. You should trade Tyler Hero this summer. Tyler Hero is a good player, but is he moving the needle for you? He got his money and he's been good. He's kind of been the same guy. I mean, Kay, you said it on this show. You felt like he should come off the bench because the team was better with him on the bench.
Yeah, I think every option should be looked at this offseason. I think this roster has kind of played out its time together. I think they've been together for a while. Maybe even like the main parts. You think Hero, Jimmy, Bam. They made it to the finals and the bubble and things like that. So I think conference finals last year. So I think that this roster may have kind of played its time. I know we talked a lot about don't blow teams up too early, but I think they've tried everything they can. I think I'm not mad at the Tyler Hero trade because he's their best asset, and if they're gonna try to get something back, if it's not Bam, it's gonna have to be Hero, and I think you would maybe want to keep Bam. So I'm not even mad about that. The put him out there and see what you can get back for him because he's kind of your best trade asset, and this roster is kind of it seems like it is what it is at this point. And if anything, if you look at this year, it seems like maybe they're regressing a little bit, or maybe teams know like what to expect from them at this point. So they do need to switch it up a little bit, especially Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, obviously, he's not really getting any younger and things like that. I think Bam's getting better. So it'd be interesting to see what they do this summer, but I think it's time with this roster to switch it up. They tried Kyle Lowry and things like that. So that's I think they'll switch it up a little bit this summer. Right? And you know Pat Riley. I think he sees things and he's gonna. And they built a lot of this roster off like undrafted players and things like that. So I think it's time for them to maybe make another big splash.
Yeah, you got to, man. I think nobody should close the door on Bradley Beal in Washington. I don't think that. I know he just got paid, but I don't. He said something interesting about how he's feeling with things right now, where he's not asking for a trade or anything like that, but in a sense he's still kind of bothered with not being able to win. And then it's starting to seem like the writing is on the wall for Damian Lillard getting out of Portland. He's saying a lot more than he's said in the past. So I think that those are two things you got to look out for. Hero, best asset on the roster. Like I said, if I gotta if I gotta give him up to get a star, I'm doing it. I fought against the idea in the past, but I think that's something that's gotta happen. You gotta do everything. I'm talking about getting a center. If you can come away with getting a high value player back, and you can still keep Jimmy and Bam, you've won the summer. But that's just me. I do want to give some praise to the Atlanta Hawks. However, they played their butts off last night, punched them in the mouth, like you said. Just kept answering everything that Miami was throwing at them as well. And I think a big thing, which I'm noticing, Quinn Snyder was hired mid-season, after taking his time off. I felt like what you saw last night was his offense and defense kind of finally getting their legs underneath them. I think that the Celtics will beat them in the first round, but I don't think that the Hawks are going to make it easy for the Celtics in the first round. I see that as a 5-6 game series.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously, like I said, the Hawks have talent, and when you've seen the run that they went on a few years ago to make it to the conference finals, and that game, they seemed like they were back there, and now they added Murray. So I think something about them when the playoff time comes and they get in it, they seem to be able to make a run. I think it was interesting to me because the Heat has had Trae Young's number. I think if you look at the stats, like the last, I think it was like 10 games or something that they played him, he was averaging like 10 or under points. So it was good to see. Well, it was good to see them kind of finally break out of that and things like that. But I think, like you said, I think they'll make it tough for the Celtics. If you look at their run from a few years ago, it's a lot of those same guys, and I think last night showed that they still have the talent. They can kind of put it together. I still think it'd be tough for them to beat Boston, and they're probably not going to beat Boston. But I see what you mean in seeing them make it tough and make a run. They're a team that has talent. Just this year, they wasn't really able to put it together. They haven't really been able to put it together since that conference finals run. But if they couldn't put it together, like I don't see them doing it, but they could maybe make another little small run.
Yeah, they definitely have the pieces. I think, like I said, man, I think the biggest thing here is Quinn Snyder and him finally. It takes time. It always takes time, especially it's not ideal for you to hire a coach on a contending team. This wasn't all right, we got rid of the coach and then we elevated the assistant coach to our head coach. He was not in the building at all up until they hired him. So it takes time to kind of understand what he's asking of you as a player, how he wants you to run things and things like that. It takes time for him to understand how you operate as a player from a non-competitive standpoint where he's not going against you. So to me, this is probably the most dangerous team in the playoffs because of that. And yeah, like I said earlier, I expect to see some big things.
Yeah, definitely. I see, like I said, the talent, even with Murray being back over there, those guys have been in the playoffs and do things like that. And even Quinn Snyder, like you were saying, he's been in the playoffs. He's made runs with the Jazz. Obviously, they never really made anything big, but he's obviously a well-rounded coach, and he knows what he's doing out there. So let's see what he can draw up here against the Celtics. Should be a good series. Yeah, it's interesting because there were those Trey Young rumors coming out about them maybe shipping him in the summer. So let's see what this run does to maybe they rethink that a little bit.
Did you believe? I never believed that though. And then I saw Chris Haynes came out and said, that the Atlanta Brass just yesterday, well, they had a whole meeting with him about it, and they even flew out to Miami to talk to him and just kind of told him like there was no merit to what they had heard. It sounded weird to me that got out. I don't know what that was about, but I think Trey is Atlanta.
Right. I didn't look too hard into it, but when I seen the rumors, I wasn't like too surprised. Obviously, last year and some of this year, they said he was beefing with the coach, but obviously that coach is not there no more. But I think they may have felt like maybe they maximize everything they can maybe do with him. So I was like, when I seen it, I was like, I'm not too shocked. I can see why maybe they've gotten to that point, but I can also see why, you keep a talent like that and try to keep figuring it out.
Yeah, 100%. Other game that we had on the docket last night was the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought that was ugly basketball last night. Some of the players doing a little too much. D'Angelo Russell, in his revenge game, scored 2 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists on. I could just get that to pull up, or whatever. Even with that box score I just gave you, outside of the assists, not a lot going on there. I thought that he just was taking ill-advised shots. He was trying to shoot from 3 a lot instead of kind of working in the paint, which was hurting the Lakers. The Lakers were down for the majority of this game. Now, the story going into the game was no Rudy Gobert because he took a swing at his teammate Kyle Anderson. So he was suspended for 1 game, right? I thought that said a lot about how Minnesota, who traded the house to get him, how Minnesota views him. Because a lot of teams would have said, this is one of our better players. We're just going to heavily fine you and maybe figure out another discipline thing to do with you. They clearly thought that they could win this game without him. So that was the first thing that blew my mind. But then, a lot of bad basketball on both parts. You were asking Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns to outplay LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That didn't happen. Edwards played not so great himself last night. Cat, pretty good game. But overall, the Lakers were able to capitalize late. Thought the Timberwolves were starting to get a bit visibly winded, which was what we saw. And the only reason it went to overtime was because Anthony Davis not so smart decision of fouling um, Mike Conley with a second left when he's shooting at three.
Yeah, I think, like you said, some of those guys look winded, but I don't know if it's the fact that they thought that they can win without him. I just think that it was such a public situation that they felt like they had to do something. I felt like with it being that public and them not doing anything, they probably felt like it would have looked bad. So they probably felt like they needed him, but they just had to do something. Uh, they played like obviously says bad basketball, but they were winning that game for most of the game. They kind of blew that game late in the fourth quarter, so they still had a chance to win it. And if they win it, then maybe we're having a different discussion right now about them winning the game without him, and maybe if they need him, because we know about the struggles he has had in the playoffs with guarding people and things like that. So yeah, it was ugly basketball, especially late. I agree with you where teams looking winded. I think Anthony Edwards down the stretch was looking winded a lot. I think he was like 0 for 8 from three. But the Lakers were able to grind out and gut out a gritty win, and now they're in the playoffs and after their season has started and things like that. So shout out to them for being able to make it here and holding on. Obviously, they made some change at the deadline, but I actually think the Lakers are in a good spot. I think Memphis is in some trouble. Steven Adams being out, Clark being out. I think Memphis is kind of not as strong in their front line as they was last year, and I think Steven Adams is a big part to their team. So that series should be real interesting. But back to the Minnesota and LA game, I think it's just Minnesota being young, tired, maybe without one of their best players, and just the Lakers having Bron in them and being at home, they was able to grind and gut out that win.
Yeah, for sure. They came a big, huge three by Schroeder. LeBron playing lights out. Um, I wanted to say, like, going into that Memphis series, do you feel like what you watched last night affected your opinion at all? Because most of us, if not all of us, have felt like the Lakers can go on a run. This is before the playing even started. They were playing very well since the trade deadline. They corrected a lot of things that were wrong with their roster at the trade deadline. But I just felt like I wasn't inspired by what I saw last night. Now, I will say that, you mentioned Steven Adams. They're also without Desmond Bain. Desmond Bain's, I don't think he's expected to play on Sunday. Is he?
That I don't know, and if they are without him, that's even a bigger issue for them. Another big issue for them.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. It says he's a game time decision. We'll see. It doesn't. Last I heard, it wasn't expected to play, but I think no Steven Adams. That opens up a lot of things for Anthony Davis, and then if Desmond Bain's one of your better defenders on that team, that could probably hurt them. But I don't know. I just feel like going into this, I'm like, all right, Lakers win against Minnesota, and I think that they'll probably beat Memphis with the injuries that Memphis is dealing with. But I don't know. I'm a little weary about this series for the Lakers now than it was before.
I don't think the game changes my opinion too much, 'cause I'm not going to take too much into it. The season just ended. They had a day off to play this game. Minnesota, a young team. I think the playoffs would be a little different. Now they have like a week off. They'll have days in between the game planning for one team. I think it's more playoff basketball, and then when it's playoff basketball like that, I think Braun and AD have a chance. And them having days off in between to get some rest, and it's not back to backs. It's not. It may not even be like a game every other night. There may be games every 2 nights or whatever. So I just think with it being playoff basketball, time the game plan, and being able to get this week rest and then rest off in between games, not as much travel, this and that. I think that bodes well for an older team like the Lakers. And then, like you said, the Grizzlies dealing with all those injuries. So I think you give Bron some rest in playoff basketball. I think the Grizzlies should be scared. I think that other game is kind of is what it is. But I think now they know they're in. I think their biggest issue, especially the last couple of years, was getting in. Now that they're in, I think, like I said, you get the rest. and broaden them in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess it'll be a wait and see thing. Playoffs start Saturday and Sunday. They'll be on all day. That Lakers Memphis series will be the first game on Sunday. It's 2 o'clock where I'm at. It'll be 3 p.m. on the East Coast. So that'll definitely be fun to watch. Playing day two, the Toronto Raptors up 63-47 on the Chicago Bulls. Doesn't at right now, it's the third quarter. It does not appear like the Bulls have answers for Toronto, who could be looking for a new head coach after the season's over.
Toronto?
I don't. Nick Nurse said he needed to take some time away to kind of evaluate things.
Okay, I can see. Obviously, championship head coach first season. They probably see where this team is maybe going moving forward. Obviously, they have some talent, but I don't think they're have the talent to win, like back to the championship type of thing. I think they have enough to kind of be in that floating to making it, not making it type of range. And sometimes they say that's not where you want to be. You either want to not make it and get a lottery pick or have a chance to win. So I think they're in that middle range where it's like we're not bad, so we're getting late lottery picks and making the playoffs, but we're also not good enough to win a championship. So maybe he's rethinking about what he wants to do, and we'll see. For them, I think even the GM needs to rethink. Yeah, just rethink about like what's next for the team, and do they want to improve, like try to improve and go for it, or maybe make a couple trades, or do they want to maybe blow it up and start from the bottom because they're in that little middle range?
I don't think you need to blow it up. Scotty Barnes was a high lottery draft pick 2 years ago. We think the world of Pascal Siakam. We like OG Anunoby a lot. They have a lot of pieces over there. I think if you're Toronto, regardless of how the season ends, it looks like it's 66-50 now. Toronto. It looks like they can kind of take that step where it's like, hey, we don't have to stick with this roster. We have a bunch of trade assets on this roster. Let's try and bring some top tier players in, veteran players in here to go. Which this has been my thinking all the time. I liked when Troy Weaver did it last year. I think what hurt Detroit big was Cade Cunningham getting hurt, but taking a swing at it, especially when you feel like you got the young pieces and you just need to put the vets around them. Like, this is what I think Houston should have been doing. If you're Toronto, that's probably got to be your move this summer. See, kind of go around the market. What vets can you sign? And similar to what I said about the Heat and Hero, these could be guys that you like, but they're not moving the needle for you. Where you're just going to say he's a trade asset. Let's bring him in for a guy or some pieces that can help us win now.
Right. And like I said, they're going to have that decision to make. They can go that route. They can go, like I said, and say, hey, maybe we reset and maybe trade these guys and restart it. But I think if you're going to go that route, you go on that market trying to look for another star player. I think you need to get another star player in here before you're like in championship contention. I think you could get some nice pieces to go around some of these guys, but I think if you look at them, since Kawhi left, they're kind of missing that star player to kind of get them there. I think Pascal Siakam's a solid player. I think he's more like a number 2 option. I think Scotty Barnes being an all-around player. Not having as good as a year this year as he had his rookie year, but I still don't think he's like the number 1 guy either. So maybe Scotty and them develop into that, but I think for now they're just missing that one star player, and I don't know if that's on the market out there for them this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. Let me ask you something. I know you haven't been as vocal about it because the team hasn't been as good the last couple of years, but who are you picking tonight? Are you going with the Pelicans or your beloved Oklahoma City Thunder?
I am going with the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight to shock the Pelicans. I think it's gonna be tough, but the Thunder have pulled out a lot of good wins this year. I think they've been a surprise team, and I think tonight would just be another surprise. So I'm rocking with Shea and the guys to go out there and get a dub.
All right, all right. I honestly didn't know who to pick because I know Bi's playing, CJ's playing tonight, but if you look at the injury report here, you know Jose Alvarado's out, obviously season ender for the Pelicans. Zion Williamson's not playing. Larry Nance Jr. is a game time decision. Those are very big pieces for a Pelicans team that's been, very on and off. So, Oklahoma City is kind of ahead with where people expected them to be. When the season started, I think a lot of people were talking about Shea and how maybe his talents are getting wasted. But he's made the best of this situation and he's brought this team into a play-in. I might have to go with the Pelicans off of just how I feel about BI, but also I'm indifferent about it because Shea is a baller. So I
Yeah.
really go ahead.
Now, I was gonna say, yeah, I expect Shea to ball out tonight. I expect Lil Adult to play some good defense on Bi. I'm just going with the shocker pick. I think they've been shockers all year, and it's kind of I don't want to say Cinderella run, but they've just been shockers all year. Like you said, they're ahead of where people thought they were, and I'm just going with the shocker tonight. I expect them to come out with another big win, the unexpected one, but that's kind of what their whole season has been.
If they win tonight, do they knock off Minnesota on Friday to get the 8th seed?
I want to say yes. I'm going with the full shocker. I think I want to say every year there's been a team to make it that we didn't really expect it. I think Memphis that year with the Warriors, they came in and got the dub against the Warriors. So every year there's been like that team that we didn't expect to get in, but they got in. And this year, I think, like I said, the way the Thunder season has been going, I think they get in. They play Minnesota. I think Lil Adult will play some good defense on Ant-Man, and they'll get the dub.
You want to put the stamp on it?
Uh,
You got to put the stamp on it, K.
Go ahead. I feel like it's been a jinx, but we're gonna go. Go ahead. Let's do it.
Guaranteed. Drew Marshall. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
There we go. There we go. Now I gotta ride with it because you my mans. We do this show. Now we gotta look good out here. I'm all in on it too. I'm gonna take it too. So let's try it. Let's go ahead and dive into what this playoff picture will and could look like. So you want to go east or west first?
Let's start east.
We do not know what 1 versus 8 will look like because we still got a couple games to go with. I think regardless, I will say it'll probably be Milwaukee against Miami. There's a little bias in me. I'm not completely confident in Miami, but I'll say Milwaukee versus Miami, and I'm going to pick the Bucks to win in 5. I think that they're just too much, even without Chris Middleton. They're still playing extremely well and going up against a Heat team that is just not what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was gonna go Bucks in 5 too. I think Bucks just a well-oiled machine right now, like I've been saying all year. Playoff time, I think they're gonna turn it up. So I got the tough because I wasn't forgot it's Miami. When I'm like whoever the Bucks play will probably be in 5. I want to say 6, but I'm gonna stay with 5. I'll say Bucks at 5.
All right. Let's go ahead and move down to the 2 and 7 matchup. It's the Atlanta Hawks against the Boston Celtics. I came away very impressed with the Atlanta Hawks last night. We talked about it a bit here. I don't know. I think there's a lot going on in Boston that we're not talking about. As far as where Jaylen Brown is at with this team, he's been very non-committal lately with them. Contract talks are ramping up. And, they just haven't been – they've been good, but they haven't been as hot as they were to start out the season. With that being said, I am going to pick the Boston Celtics to win this matchup. I think Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown still a force to be reckoned with. And, although I like the talent that Atlanta has, I just don't think that they have enough right now. Now, could they go on a run? Absolutely. I would not be shocked at all if they knocked off Boston. But I'm gonna take the Boston Celtics to win this series in 6 games. Give me Boston in 6.
Oh man, the Hawks, man. I was impressed with their win the other day, but if you look at their season, you never know which Hawks team you're gonna get. If they're clicking on all cylinders like they were against the Heat and they look motivated, I'm thinking Hawks. I mean, I'm thinking Celtics in 6 too. Obviously, if they come out on their up and down stuff like they've been a few times this season, it could be Bucks in 4, Celtics in 4, Celtics in 5. I hate to say that we agree again. I think the Hawks have a couple good games in this series, so I'm gonna say. And I feel like the Hawks will come out and shocking and win game 1, but still end up losing the series in 6. So the Hawks are an up and down team. When they're clicking, but when they're not, they're not. So Celtics in 6.
You know what's crazy? Not only like do we agree with the Celtics going in 6, but I actually completely agree with you that I could see Atlanta winning that first game. But man, yeah, I definitely got that one. Celtics, Brooklyn Nets against the 76ers. You know what I didn't realize last time we talked about this series as a first round series? It's not just the whole Ben Simmons Philly thing that's there, right? Or Harden, Brooklyn. It's not just that. You know who drafted Mikal Bridges?
It was the Sixers. I think his mom was working there at the time too. I don't know if she still works.
Yep, it was the Philadelphia 76ers. Mom did in fact work for the Sixers at the time. You're right. I do not know whether or not she still works there, but she did work for the Celtics at that time. The Sixers at that time, and they did trade him. They did absolutely trade him on draft night, and I know he was not that happy about it, but it is what it is, and you cannot tell me that he won't. You cannot tell me that he won't be taking that personally. I think that he's gonna ball. I think that he's gonna do it in a losing effort because the Sixers have who will be the league MVP this year on their team, and I got the Philadelphia 76ers winning this in 5 games. I almost said sweep, but I'm gonna give him 1.
I agree. I think he'll be motivated. Obviously, after the trade, he's been playing like a superstar, a star definitely. I got the Celtics. I got the 76ers in 4. I think they're gonna pack up the Nets. The Nets have been a good story. Play defense, play hard, no superstar, kind of back to what they were before KD and Kyrie. Bridges has been a great story. Getting traded and like I said, playing like a superstar, all-star. I just think the 76ers are the better team with more talent. And I don't know if I love Claxton. I think Claxton's a good player, great defender. I just don't know if he is that type of defender against a guy like Embiid. So I see Embiid kind of getting off and doing his thing. James Harden kind of doing his thing. So I am going to pick a sweep here and say the Sixers come out and handle their business. But it will be a hard-fought sweep.
Hey, I almost said it. I was almost there with you, like, because it really is an uneven matchup. But this is a very gritty team. That's like why I'm like, all right, I still think that you guys can get 1. I feel like you guys can still get 1. But hey, we'll definitely see, man. Are you expecting any statements at all
In that series?
Yeah.
Nah. I think maybe if Ben was playing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope Ben gets back to a place where he can get right.
Yeah,
Because this ain't working.
it's another story for another day. Does he even want to play? Things like that. So, because like I said before on here before, this seems like the perfect situation that people who wanted him in, kind of like a Giannis role, where it's like a whole bunch of 3-and-D guys around you, kind of go just get cause havoc, get into the paint, pass out to shooters. So, seems like the perfect situation for him. So, unfortunate if it is health that. He just can't get on the court because of that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Y'all know the other matchup that we got to talk about in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers and that never works out for me. The New York Knicks. The New York Knicks. We're throwing gunshots for the Knicks this time around. Let me tell you what. Go ahead, throw some Chuck on for me real quick.
Guaranteed. Drew Marshall. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. 4-zip.
I guarantee, no 4-zip. I guarantee that this is a 7-game series. I expect Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell to look like Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray did when they faced off in the playoffs. And we just got nothing but back-to-back scoring in these games. I think that this is going to be a 7-game series. Now, Cleveland, definitely a better team than the New York Knicks are. They've got a lot more pieces than the Knicks do, not as many holes, but this Knicks team is just gritty. They're exactly what the New York Knicks of old used to be. Now, no, we're not going to go there and say the Knicks are back, right? But I feel like they did learn a lot from the last time they were in the playoffs. This isn't a play-in situation either. Yes, Julius Randle's probably not going to play early in this series, but I think that it's still enough firepower for the Knicks to be able to drag this thing out, possibly pull a small upset, but definitely take them to 7. And I'll tell you what, you know who the X factor in this is going to be for the New York Knicks? RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett it's time. He's got to step up. You were the 3rd overall pick in the draft. You at one point you were the number 1 recruit in the nation. It's time to act like it. People in New York have been calling for your head. I know people personally, diehard Knicks fans, would like to see you go because they just don't think that you're it. But, now's the time. Put up or shut up. It's time, and I think that he might be able to answer the call.
Man. This should be a good series. I'm going Cavs in 6. I don't think it'll go 7. I see it. I see Donovan Mitchell having some big games in this series. I think he's going to go off in the Garden, being back home. All the storylines that comes behind this series. Love the... Why did my Siri just come on? Okay. Sorry about that. All the things going on. I just think Donovan Mitchell is going to be the biggest X factor here. I think he's going to have one of those series. I like the Jalen Brunson thing that you said, and that's why I might have picked the Cavs in like 5, but Jalen Brunson, I think it'll get to 6. Like I said, I see Mitchell just. It's one of those series where he'll be motivated. Obviously, wanted to go to New York. Thought he was going to New York from New York. He's gonna want to put on a show in the Garden in the playoffs. So I got the Cavs in 6.
Garden's definitely gonna be rocking, man. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I can tell you when the Knicks are good, the NBA is good, and watching playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden is fun. Doesn't matter who you're rooting for, it is fun. So that is definitely gonna be one to look out for. K says 6. I got 7. I hit him with the guarantee and put a stamp on it. Let's go ahead and move on to the West. 1 seed Denver Nuggets against either the Minnesota Timberwolves or the winner of tonight's play-in game with Oklahoma City. and the New Orleans Pelicans. Hey, bro, I don't know if you're going to like this. I think that the Denver Nuggets will move on if they play either of the two teams tonight. I like the matchup for Minnesota. And remember, when Minnesota made the trade for Rudy Gobert, me and you both agreed that for this team to do anything this year, it would have to come down on the hands of Karl Anthony Towns, right? And we were not believers in Karl Anthony Towns. That we just didn't expect them to do much because we don't believe that he can get right when you need him to. This could be similar to what I just said about RJ Barrett. It's that time where it's put up or shut up. You're supposed to be a star in this league. This is the time, especially when you go back to last postseason where he did not play that great. This is the time where you make a name for yourself. You go out and put a statement out there of who you are as a player. Nobody is a believer in Denver as a championship contender. You have a chance to go knock them off. You have a nice team around you. So I might pick, if it's Minnesota against Denver, I might pick Minnesota to knock them off.
You know what's crazy? Actually, if it's the Pelicans, I feel like the Pelicans have a good chance of knocking them off. Obviously, like you said, a lot of people aren't high on the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets get out of the series regardless, but I think the Pelicans, if you think of the way the Pelicans played the Suns last year in the playoffs, I think the Pelicans will make it real tough for the Nuggets. Even if you think about the CJ a couple years ago when he killed the Nuggets to get the Blazers out of the second round. So I think the Pelicans will make it real tough for them. But I'm going to go Nuggets regardless. Obviously, it comes down to Jamal Murray being healthy and how well he can play. He gives them that guard that can go get a bucket and kind of take some pressure off of Nurkic. No, Joker. Take pressure off the Joker and things like that. So I think it comes down to those things, but I'm gonna pick the Nuggets to get out of this series regardless, no matter who it is. But I think the Pelicans will make it the toughest on them. I like what you said about Minnesota though, because Minnesota has two big men, and with Gobert, I think that's the one series where Gobert won't hurt a team in the playoffs because he'll probably be on the Joker, and it just comes down to how well can he just guard the Joker. So I think he'll be able to stay on the court in that playoff series.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. We'll definitely see how that one goes. 2-7, Los Angeles Lakers against the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, there's a lot to talk about here with storylines. I feel like me and you might agree on this one. I've changed my mind of what I was saying earlier about, what's to be desired with the Lakers after last night. I think I'm going to pick the Lakers to win this series in 6 games. Not only that, but I think after the Lakers win, that it will be a media frenzy when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies and who they are as a team, where a lot of people are talking about, they're putting their chests out there and they're saying a lot, but they haven't actually done anything. I think that if they don't come out of this series, they will be hearing a lot from a lot of people about them.
Right. I'm going to go the same. I'm going to take the Lakers in 6. I think the injuries that we talked about earlier with the Grizzlies will come back to hurt them a lot. I think Steven Adams is going to be bigly missed in the series. Obviously, AD, Bron, the Lakers are a more veteran team. Even though the Grizzlies got their feet wet a little last year, I just think they're not going to be able to overcome those injuries, especially not going up against like LeBron and AD in the playoff series. I think they need to be full strength, and I think they would have had a good chance of getting out this series. But I think not being full strength, being a young team, and I don't even know if they really have someone to guard Bron. So I'm gonna go Lakers in 6. I feel like if it goes 7, the Grizzlies probably get it. So I'm gonna go Lakers in 6.
Hey, man, I think even if it goes 7, I ain't going to doubt LeBron in a game 7. He's usually pretty money in game 7s.
Yeah, I think he's gonna pick apart these young boys. He's seen it too many times. I just think it's one of those like you just haven't been here enough and know enough to kind of overcome what LeBron has. That's what I'm saying. They're gonna need someone that can really guard Braun, and I just don't think I like Dylan Brooks a lot. I just don't think he's gonna be that for them. So I think Braun is just it's gonna pick them apart because they're just too young.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. We got a 3-6 matchup. First time since all teams have been in for statehood has this happened that all the California teams are in the playoffs. And we will get to see two of those teams square off when the Sacramento Kings play against the Golden State Warriors in a 3-6 matchup. We talk a lot about the Warriors being able to turn it on when it matters most. They're all getting healthy at the right time. Wiggins is back. And because of that, I'm going to take the Warriors to move on to the second round. We talk about youth just now with Memphis. The Kings definitely epitomize youth. This is another series with storylines as well. When you talk about the California thing, Kings, breaking that drought, that long playoff drought that they had. And then Mike Brown, the head coach of the Kings, who's the assistant for the Warriors the last few years, couple titles. So there's a bunch of that. But I think ultimately the Kings' youth is just going to be too much to overcome for them. And the Warriors move past them. I don't know whether I want to say 5 or 6 games. I don't think they sweep them. I really don't think they sweep them. I would give them a game. I like what I've seen from the Kings this season. They're the 3 seed for a reason.
I want to say a sweep, but I'm going to give the Kings one game. I'm going to say Warriors in 5. I think this is their first time being in the playoffs in like 20 years. I think there's going to be a game where the crowd is just rocking. Probably game 1, the Kings are going to play really well and they get that game. I think after things settle down, the Warriors are just more experienced. The Kings don't play no defense. I feel like the worst team for you to play against is the Warriors when you're not playing no defense. So the people will say that the Warriors don't play defense. Wiggins is coming back, like you said. GP2 is coming back. They're going to be playing a lot more defense. Obviously, it's playoff time, so they're going to turn it up. I just think the Kings are not going to be ready for what the Warriors are when it comes to that. And I think I'm giving them 1 because the crowd, it's going to be one of those. We've seen those games where the crowd is just going to be super rocking. They haven't been there in 20 years. Even them getting there this year was slightly a surprise. So people are going to play well. Things are going to be clicking in all cylinders. I can even see game 1 being a blowout for the Kings. But I think it's over for them after that.
Yeah. So do you, because the Warriors are one of the worst teams on the road this year, right? Do you feel like if Wiggins and GP2 aren't playing this series, I might take the Kings just based off of the resume that I got from the Warriors this season. But I think that them having those 2 guys there changes a ton. I completely agree with you as far as game 1 goes. I think Warriors take game 2. And then I think the Kings get swept from there on out. Like, I don't see them winning. I could see them getting blown out at the Chase Center. I think that environment over there is going to be way too much for them to handle.
Right. I agree with a lot of that. If GP and Wiggins aren't there, I still think it becomes a shootout then if the Warriors aren't playing defense. And I'm still picking the Warriors in that shootout. So I think it's just the Warriors all the way, and it could be I'm scarred because what the Warriors have done, and I have to see someone beat them before I really think that it's over for them. But I just don't see the Kings being that team. So I think young, excited to watch, but not playing no defense against the Warriors is not what you want. So I think the Warriors, and it's playoff time, the Warriors are going to turn it up. I don't care what happened this regular season. They got in. They're not in the play-in. They're only Draymond said he wanted the Kings because it's a closer ride. It's only about an hour or so. So I think the Warriors will be well-rested, well-ready, and it's a different season, and they know that. So everything that happened in the regular season doesn't even matter no more. I got the Warriors in 5.
All right. Um, yeah, I think I want to go five. I think I want to go five. I just feel like they could take it to six. Like I think that it could go Kings, Warriors win the next three, and then close out in Sacramento, or I'm sorry, they would close out in Golden State. Or no, you know what? Matter of fact, no. Yeah. All right. I'll.
I see the scenario you're saying. You say Kings win one, Warriors win the next three, then it's game 5 elimination game in Sacramento. I think the crowd will be rocking again where they could slightly win that game 5, like backs against the wall type of thing. So I can see that, but I'm staying with 5. I can see that what the scenario you just said where they going 6.
I'm gonna say six then. Because we can't agree on every single pick here. So I'll go six.
I think we had this. I think we had this same teams, different number of games. I think.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep that going.
This is where it gets interesting, though. This next series is where it gets interesting.
Oh yeah. Now I'm pretty sure we're not gonna pick the same. I don't think we are. Your 4-5 matchup, the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Clippers. Now the Clippers have no Paul George, Kevin Durant. They've been undefeated with him in the lineup, but also a lot of people have been talking about this. They haven't really played anybody since he's been over there. So that's a big thing. Now, gather around. Let me go ahead and give y'all some history real quick before I go and throw this pick in. The year is 2017. It's the playoffs, and I believe that the Warriors, could be wrong, are in Oakland. Am I wrong on that? The Western
yes,
Conference.
It's
the West.
Yep. Yeah, they're in Oakland. I know where you're going with this.
It's the Western Conference Finals. You got Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, and they were losing to the San Antonio Spurs, led by Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard goes out that series after the Pachulia debacle, where he is done. The Warriors have to climb back in that game 1 to just barely win game 1 after being down huge to the Spurs with Kawhi Leonard. So without Kawhi Leonard, they're able to win that series. No Kawhi Leonard the rest of the series, and it becomes a complete wash. Look, man, I said it the last few weeks, and I'll say it again. I've never not believed this. I think we forget because he hasn't played. Kawhi Leonard is a top 5 player in this game. Absolutely. I think the world of him. I mean, I think the world of a lot of these guys, but I'm looking at Russell Westbrook, who's been playing very well for the Los Angeles Clippers, and I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard, who seems like he is back to that top 5 territory. The Phoenix Suns are great. They have a very solid team. I think Chris Paul is at the back end of his career now. It's very evident. So it's really up to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. This is your playoff series of the first round. I am going to take the Los Angeles Clippers in 7 games to win this series. And I believe that the winner of this series will be your NBA champion.
Yeah, this series is definitely a conference finals series. So it's like a toss-up. Both of these teams, like I said, can be conference finals contenders. So who'd you pick?
I got the Clippers in 7.
Interesting. I myself feel like the Clippers can win this series, and especially if PG was there, I did think that the Clippers had a good chance of winning this series. I wasn't even thinking about that series that you just brought up, but I know Kawhi's gonna make it tough for KD on defense, and Kawhi's gonna give you offense. Kawhi's gonna be Kawhi, so I felt like with that, then if PG was here, PG on Booker, so they have the matchups, they defense and things like that. But with no PG, I'm gonna ride with the Suns. I think the Suns get it done in 6. I love Westbrook. Obviously, he still needs to figure out over the last couple of years of how he can figure out his niche in the playoffs when teams are playing that funny defense on him and things like that. So a lot of it comes down to Kawhi. I love Kawhi, but I think the no PG hurts them. I think he'll be back sometime during the series, but it may be maybe just a little too late. So I'm gonna go Suns in 7. I'm gonna go Suns in 7.
All right. You know, my biggest thing too, because I agree with you. I think I hate that he got hurt because that was something I was looking forward to with this series. Was him playing and balling, and then I would have definitely said outright because it was hard for me to pick the Clippers. But if he's playing, I would have said outright. I think that the Clippers win this series. I disagree with you. One, I don't think that the Suns close them out in LA. And
no, wait, whoa! Game 7's in Phoenix.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like, oh no, my bad, because I think you said earlier.
Oh no,
earlier,
yeah, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I got to go on 7 because I can't see them closing them out in LA. But also, you know, we talk about X factors. You brought up how teams play defense on Russ. Russ is it's not great. Russ is having a career year from beyond the arc. Like teams kind of have to defend him now. Like he's still not a shooter, but you have to be weary of him now when he's on the perimeter. And I think if he's doing that, it's gonna be tough.
Since he's been with the Clippers, I think obviously he's played better. I think he got his confidence back, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. So let's see how it goes. I seen there was a interview he did today. Like this is the first time in a couple of years he's gone into the playoffs, no injuries, kind of healthy. So maybe that'll make a huge difference for him. But I still think, you know, it's CP versus Russ. There's a lot of storylines and matchups in this thing. So I'm still gonna go Suns in 7. Like I said, I think the PG one is what hurts them. I think that allows Devin Booker to go off a little more. But it'd be interesting what the Clippers prioritize with no PG at the moment. If you go maybe Kawhi on Booker and slow Book down and then maybe say, hey, KD's going to be KD type of thing. So it should be interesting. The matchups should be fun.
I think we saw what Kawhi can do to KD. I think if Ty Lue is going to do what he does. I think you throw him on KD because that's the bigger threat for Phoenix than Booker is. And then they still the beauty of what the Clippers are throwing out there is they still have some very good defenders on that team that you can throw at Devin Booker as well. So that's just something I would watch out for in that series.
Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be a game of matchup. Like I said, it's like a conference final series. 2 great coaches here, so this is gonna be the series of the first round, and everyone make sure you tune in.
Right on. With 9 minutes to go, the Bulls have crept into this lead of the Raptors. It's now 82-87. Definitely watch out for that one. I'm gonna go with the Raptors to close that one out, and I'm riding with you. I'm gonna ride with you on the Oklahoma City pick tonight. But before we get out of here, man, anything else before we go ahead and say adios for the week?
Nah, I ain't got nothing else, man. I think we touched on everything, man. Y'all just again, a great time for basketball, man. Make sure y'all tune in. It's gonna be some high level basketball from now until the end of June. So let's get it.
Let's get it, man. 100%. Can't wait to see it unfold. Starts Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then doing it all, and that'll last all day. And then we're going to do it all over again at 3 o'clock Eastern. I'm all over the place. And that'll continue on through the day. And of course, we will be back top of the week to recap it all. So with that being said, it's Kayson, it's Rich, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.